Welcome back to the Surviving the Human Experience podcast. So, today's episode is one that's going to be action packed, full of lots of insight, wisdom, and information. We are going to be talking about the science of cosmetic acupuncture with Dr. Alexia Lindell. So, super excited for all the passion that she brings to this topic and her wanting to share her journey with us so we can learn more about her work and see if acupuncture is right for us. So let me start off with our bio, and then I will introduce Dr. Alexia Lindell to the show. So Alexia Lindell is a doctor of acupuncture. She's the founder of Chi Society, a boutique acupuncture practice in Worcester, Mass. She holds a doctoral degree in acupuncture and is licensed by Massachusetts Board of Registration in Medicine. Before acupuncture, she served as a Coast Guard officer. While working as a search and rescue coordinator, spending most of her time helping to save lives, she realized acupuncture was saving the quality of her own life. That's when she decided to totally change the game, switch careers, and now she's specializing in cosmetic acupuncture, focusing on stress relief, nervous system regulation, combining traditional acupuncture techniques with modern tools like the LYMA laser. And her practice focuses on personalized whole body care that helps patients look and feel their best. So, welcome to the show, Alexia.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, so excited for this conversation. You are my first acupuncturist on the show. So, woohoo! Yes. So,
Exciting.
yes, happy to have you here. So, I would like to have you start off by sharing a little bit about yourself. You described yourself as I was going through all of your information, getting to know you as a hot mess at 25, running on insomnia, acid reflux, TMJ, acne, while working search and rescue for the Coast Guard. So take us back to those moments and share with us what was going on and how your journey started off.
Yeah, so like I said, I share really openly with a lot of my patients that I was, quite frankly, a hot mess only at age 25. And so I kind of, you know, certain things would happen, and I thought, okay, maybe this will just take care of itself. I don't need to go see the doctor or
Hmm.
make any changes because hopefully this is just something that will go away in a couple weeks or a few weeks. And then more weeks went by, more weeks went by, and instead of things just magically going away on their own, more issues started to occur. So, for example, I think it kind of started with like some acid reflux, some TMJ, clenching, tension, chronic stress, and then kind of the straw that broke the camel's back was just terrible cystic acne, like all over my face, and all the potions and lotions and creams and expensive things weren't even touching it. So that's when I decided to kind of take a step back and figure out, okay, what's going on here? What can I do to try and help myself? So I
Hmm.
started to really focus on stress relief, practicing yoga, meditation, and I was getting some improvement with that. But
Okay.
I really wanted to heal as much as I could.
Yeah.
And near the yoga studio that I went to was actually an acupuncture clinic. So from practicing all the yoga, I had more of an open mind to Eastern wellness and figured,
Mm,
what do I have to lose?
right.
So I went and tried acupuncture as a patient and had incredible results. After
Okay.
my very first session, actually, I went online and was Googling what does it take to become an acupuncturist. And that's when I realized you have to go to grad school, you have to potentially get a doctoral degree, that it could take 4 to 5 years. And
Mm,
so I shut my laptop and figured, okay, that's not for me.
that's too
And
long.
I
What's
know.
the
I
quick
was like,
path?
oh, going back to school. At
Right.
this point, after graduating from the Coast Guard Academy and being an officer for a few years, I was living a very comfortable lifestyle in
Yes.
Boston and
Yes.
did not like the idea of going back to being a student for so long.
Hmm.
So I continued to get acupuncture as a patient and was just continuing to be amazed at the amazing results I would get. So initially, it helped me with the acid reflux, GERD, TMJ, acne. And then as life went on, I was training for half marathon, sprained my ankle, got acupuncture for it, and it helped. In the
Ooh.
springtime, I would get seasonal allergies. And so
Hmm.
instead of kind of turning to like pharmaceuticals or just kind of suffering through things, I would
Hmm.
instantly think, oh, I should get acupuncture and see if it will help with this. And then
Oh.
every time I was just amazed that it could really help.
my gosh. All right. So that is exciting. And you shared several stories in there. Was there one specific moment, though, in all of those sessions where you were like, yep, this is it. I'm flipping the switch. I am going to hang up this comfortable lifestyle that I got used to and go back to school and become an acupuncturist?
There was one time actually where I was in charge of a retirement ceremony for a commander who I really respected. And I had sometimes struggled with dry eyes. I had PRK surgery, the
Okay.
laser eye
Hmm.
surgery. And so after having that, I had really bad dry eyes. And especially being in a command center for search and rescue, it's like on TV where there's 10 or 12 different big screens and you're just like staring,
Yes.
staring, staring for 12
Hmm.
hours, sometimes
Hmm.
almost 24 hours at a time, depending
Hmm.
on what shift you're working. And doing all of the night shifts was really something that my central nervous system did not like.
Yes.
And so my eyes were just basically being overused, and I would get really dry
Mhm.
eyes, and I had a really huge, like big eyelid. It was like puffy. And I just thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to stand up here in front of hundreds of people and be in charge of this ceremony and give these heartfelt speeches and all this stuff? So I went to acupuncture and I could kind of feel like the circulation increasing while I was on the
Mhm.
treatment table. And then I went home, took a nap, and I woke up and it had reduced by like more than half. And then the next
Wow.
day, by the time it was time for the ceremony, my eye pretty much looked normal. And so I just remember thinking like, wow, okay, this is really every crazy thing that's happened to me over the course of a
Yes.
few years, acupuncture significantly helped. So then from there, I actually worked as an assistant, a virtual assistant for about a year because
Okay.
none of my friends or family had ever really gotten acupuncture, even knew what it
Hmm.
was. So very naively, I'm like embarrassed to say, but I was like, does it just work for me? I don't know if it works for anybody else because of nobody
Hmm.
I know has gotten it. So then I could see as an assistant all the people who are coming in and out of the clinic with all their different conditions, all different walks of life, ages,
Hmm.
genders, issues, health concerns. And so I knew, okay, it's for sure not just me. It's been around for thousands of years. Of course, it's not just me,
Yes.
but that was really what did it. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm changing careers.
Wow. Ooh, I love that. And it's so awesome that you looked and you jumped further to say, okay, this has got to be a bigger thing, right? You found the thing that worked, which turned into your passion, and it allows you to speak so passionately about it to others and show people, hey, it can work in a variety of things. And this is
Mm-hmm.
my jam. Like everybody has their jam and different things. And I tell clients all the time when we're working together, certain modalities resonate with people and then others maybe not so much, but everybody finds the thing that works for them. So I'm so excited that you were able to go on that journey and just you really kept going. You didn't just dismiss it and say, okay, I'll just be a client forever. You were like, no, 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 I could change the world doing this. So I love that. All right, so you left that secure military career, chaotic time, you went back to school. In hindsight, walk us through what did that feel like? Because I've got a lot of listeners who are jumping in and maybe they have dreams and passions. They're kind of like, oh, I'd love to do this, but I've got this going on over here. Why do I want to shake things up? So, what would you say to them? Like, how did you navigate that space?
Right. It was a really, really challenging decision to make because I was doing search and rescue coordination. So I remember thinking to myself, how do you do something more rewarding than saving lives?
Right.
Um, and I remember thinking one day I had this epiphany and it seemed kind of dramatic, but I was like, wait, acupuncture saved the quality of my life. It didn't,
Yes.
necessarily save my life, not like I'm drowning or anything
Hmm.
like that, but I really felt like I was starting to fall apart and I wasn't even 30 yet. And so I just was
Hmm.
kind of projecting forward. This is not looking great. Like I could live to be 100, but what am I going to be doing? How am I going to be feeling? And
Right.
so originally when I had gone to my PCP about having like acid reflux and they diagnosed me with GERD, there really wasn't much education. It was just kind of like, oh, here's omeprazole.
Hmm.
And I remember this was before I knew really anything about anatomy or health and wellness. And I just kind of remember thinking, am I supposed to be taking this now just for the rest of my life for like the next 50 years? Like, what effects
Right.
does it have on my body? Like, is there something
Hmm.
else I could be doing?
Hmm.
And so that's when I really decided to kind of go down the health and wellness route of like learning more about yoga, meditation,
Yes.
nutrition. And that's like the perfect timing of when I found acupuncture. And so it
Mm,
was something where I just knew. I was so curious. I just, every time I went to my appointment, I had questions for my acupuncturist, and he was really great at explaining things to me and like giving me different resources or articles or even books to read. And so for me, I knew it would be a challenge, the transition, but
yeah.
that once I became an acupuncturist, I would never be bored because every patient who comes in, you treat the individual. And so everyone's got their own health history, their own story, their own concerns, their own goals. And so for me, I knew this is something I could do for the rest of my life.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love how you were able to shift that narrative, right? Because you were really stuck with the morals and values aspect. You're like, I'm saving lives over here. I'm really contributing. How do I translate that? And understanding how important it is to improve the quality of lives, to see how people are really suffering. You're still doing that amazing work. Yes, it may look a little different, but wow, still having a huge impact on lives. So I'm glad you shared that because sometimes we need a little bit of help reframing things to see how it still can link to our passion and purpose. So beautiful.
Mhm.
All right, let's jump into the juicy stuff. Acupuncture. So for someone who's never tried it, what is acupuncture actually doing in the body?
Yes, so acupuncture is when you use these tiny, sterile, hair thin needles to place an acupuncture points and meridians along the body. And so basically, it creates a tiny little micro trauma that sends signals to your central nervous system to redirect resources within your body and stimulate your body's own natural healing responses. So that's what's happening. And a lot of times people are scared of the needle. That's probably the number one thing I hear from people.
Me.
Yeah, that's okay. But the thing is that a lot of people don't realize. So, with a lot of needles that people are familiar with, like a flu shot or
Mhm.
maybe IV or even like a cortisone steroid shot, things like that, those needles are bigger because fluids are being transferred into the
Okay.
body. With acupuncture, there's no fluids that are being transferred. So, they're tiny little hair thin needles. And a lot of people actually don't really feel them. Maybe
Wow.
upon insertion, they might, just the way the epidermis works and all the nerve endings in the
Mm.
skin. But other than maybe a momentary sensation, most people don't feel them and end up actually being deeply relaxed.
Wow. Well, that is good news to hear because I was going to ask you what's one of the biggest misconceptions you hear from your new patients, and so do you have any additional to add to, people being fearful of the needle and it actually not being that painful?
I think probably another big misconception, sometimes people think like, oh, I believe in this, or like, I don't believe in this. Like they think it's I don't know, maybe more spiritual than it
Uh-huh.
necessarily is. And so it's
Yeah.
not something where you have to believe in it for it to work. Or
Okay.
sometimes people will think it's just a placebo effect or
Mm-hmm.
a different kind of misconceptions like that. There are actually dozens and dozens of studies that show the effectiveness of acupuncture for different conditions and health concerns. So
Mm-hmm.
whether you believe in it or not, it can still be effective for you. It's not anything like a religion, so to
Okay.
speak.
I love that you shared that. Beautiful. All right. And so you said it doesn't really hurt. You might feel a little bit of initial insert of that needle. But what does a first timer actually feel like? What would they what should they expect?
Yeah, so it depends on what they're coming in for. So some people will come in for pain relief. That's a big one where people go in to get acupuncture. Let's say if they have shoulder pain, knee pain, back pain, something along those lines. Some people can expect to feel relief or a change just with the one treatment. Like a lot of people will come in and then by the time they leave, they'll notice, oh, this feels less tense and more relaxed. And
Mm-hmm.
then after a series of a few treatments, like 3 to 4, is usually when people will feel confident to say, oh, acupuncture is making a difference. I can tell. Like waking
Okay.
up in the morning, I don't feel as stiff, or I can bend over and tie my shoe without wincing in pain, or those little kind of activities of daily living
Okay.
is really what I like to use as the measuring stick. But then on the other hand, some people may come in for stress relief or for help with
Mm-hmm.
sleep. So in that case, they might just notice feeling like really relaxed at the end of their treatment, maybe a big meeting that usually causes them a lot of anxiety. They didn't
Uh-huh.
feel that way
Ooh. Okay.
beforehand. With sleep, that one can be a little trickier. Sometimes after acupuncture that night, people will get great sleep. but sleep is usually more of a chronic condition where it'll take several sessions to notice like a big shift. But
Hmm.
people will try to measure the time, like, oh, instead of taking an hour to fall asleep, it took me half hour to fall asleep. And so they'll see those incremental changes.
Incremental. Hmm. Beautiful. I love it. All right. Well, you call yourself a wellness resource manager rather than acupuncturist in a lot of spaces when you're sharing your journey. Talk to us a little bit about that. What does that term mean, and why did you select that one?
Yes, I selected that just because I did want to do something to let people know I'm not just kind of a normal doctor, a normal acupuncturist. What I really love to see is people striving for their potential. And I love to reinforce this idea that health is wealth. And so sometimes people have a hard time spending money on themselves. They think it's
Yeah.
like a luxury or
Hmm.
self-care is selfish. And that's something I struggled with even I don't know, from a young age, as I said, when I was 25, I was doing pretty well for myself. You
Yeah.
know, I was an officer living in Boston. There's tons of self care everywhere. And so I started to
Yes.
dive into self care when I was trying to heal myself, but I would feel a little guilty spending
Mm.
money on myself. But then I
Hmm.
realized once I was able to reframe it as an investment and setting my future self up for success, that was a game changer. And then I just really fully dove in to trying different self-care modalities and finding what helped me. So that's why I call myself a wellness resource manager, because
Yeah.
within our bodies, we have the different things that we need. Sometimes it's just these patterns of imbalance that need to be
Mm.
shifted and need a little extra support. And so sometimes too, like a lot of my patients sometimes will be surprised when I'm like, okay, great. I think instead of coming to see me every 2 weeks, maybe you should get a personal trainer or work with a nutritionist or XYZ. There's so many different things
Mm-hmm.
that people can benefit from and can help their overall wellness, not
Yeah.
just acupuncture. I don't just want to keep people in the clinic with me as much as I care about all
Yes.
my patients. There's a ton of different aspects to health and wellness and to wealth. Part of my journey was when I was younger, I was so focused on financial wealth that everything else was getting sacrificed. My
Mm.
sleep, my health, my social life, all of these different things. And so
Yeah.
that's why I like to reframe the idea of wealth in general with my patients and with anybody who discovers me.
I love that. I think that's absolutely beautiful. And, I found that some of the best wellness and most respected wellness practitioners are the ones who are willing to share the stage. It's not all about, oh, this is the service I offer. Come here and, I could fix all of these things for you. It's being able to have that network and share that and realize that there is a whole person that could benefit from so many things. So I think that's absolutely beautiful that you shared that part as well.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yes. Let's talk about cosmetic acupuncture because that is one of your specialties, your passion. So let's get into it. So, what is cosmetic acupuncture and how does that session differ from general acupuncture?
Okay, great question. So I guess I'll talk about the logistics first. So for cosmetic acupuncture compared to regular acupuncture, depending on who you go to see, a regular acupuncture session is about 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And
Okay.
so people will do an intake. A first session of acupuncture is usually longer. It can be
Mm-hmm.
anywhere from like 60 to 90 minutes where you thoroughly go over your health history and you'll get asked about all the different systems in your body. So, like I said, sometimes people will come in for pain relief and then they'll be kind of confused, like, why are you asking about my sleep and my
Right.
bowel movements and all these
Uh-huh.
other things? But we really just, because it's a holistic practice, we want to
Hmm.
know about all the systems and figure out where these different patterns are taking place and how everything's connected. So, an initial appointment is longer, but
Okay.
the intake is also longer. It can be about 20 to 30 minutes. And then the treatment with the needles is about 20 to 30 minutes as well, sometimes a little longer. Sometimes
Okay.
people will rest with the needles for like 20 to 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the end, there could be extra modalities and adjuncts like cupping or gua sha. So
Okay.
that's kind of a normal acupuncture treatment where after the initial one, the intake's much shorter, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and
Okay.
then you'll rest with the needles. For
Mm.
cosmetic acupuncture, that is more focused on the face and neck or any sort of cosmetic concerns that people might have.
Okay.
A lot of common ones can be like discoloration, melasma, acne scars, fine lines, wrinkles, wanting to like lift any sort of sagging skin, anything like that. And sometimes people just kind of want to maintain what they have and are trying to come in preventatively. So that's a big reason that people will get cosmetic acupuncture. Sometimes
Mm,
TMJ too. TMJ can be a really big one, actually. That's a big concern that a lot of people come in for. So for my practice, those treatments are longer. And in most practices, it'd be about 90 minutes. And
okay.
so that includes more sort of facial massage, gua sha, cupping, and the cupping and gua sha on the face is a lot more gentle than the cupping and
Ah,
gua sha on the body.
I was
So if
gonna
you're
say, are people
cupping,
walking out with circles everywhere?
no, no, no. So when
Okay.
people get cupping on the body, there can be like those circle marks, or the gua sha, it can look like some scraping marks. But
Uh,
on the face, it's used to kind of gently lift and tone the different muscles of the face and to help with
okay.
lymphatic drainage. So that takes up a little extra time doing all those extra adjunctives. And then there's still needling on the body always, because we treat the whole body. And then also extra needling on the face.
Okay. So speaking of skin and face, what's happening physiologically in the skin and facial muscles during those treatments?
Yeah, so what's happening throughout the whole body, even when we do regular acupuncture, what happens is there's some sort of imbalance. Certain channels or muscles are excess and some are
Okay.
deficient. So, similar to that in the body, that's what we're doing in the face. So, the muscles in the face are either for mastication, chewing and eating, or
Mhm.
expression. And we're making expressions throughout the day so many times a day that some muscles really get overused depending on what our
Mm-hmm.
patterns are, and then
Okay.
some are underused in comparison. So with cosmetic acupuncture, we help to balance that out. And then we're
Okay.
also really increasing collagen stimulation naturally
Mm,
in the face, which can really be helpful for maintaining the certain look that people are trying to achieve.
beautiful. So tell us about that first session. Does a client usually walk out or patient work out with redness or sensitivity? Any downtime expected after that first session?
No, usually people are really glowing and there is no downtime. There's no special aftercare. That's what I love, love, love about cosmetic acupuncture. Like in the summertime, people can still go out, go to the beach. You can sweat, you
Mm,
can work out, you can do whatever you need to do. Some cosmetic procedures, you're not supposed to sweat even a little bit for 3 days, sometimes more, or stay out of
right.
the sun. And living here in New England, I only have so many sunny days. I don't want to be told you can't go to the beach, you can't go to pool, you can't go out in the sun. And especially
Yes.
with regular acupuncture too, sometimes people don't know and they'll ask, "Oh, can I work out? Can I get a massage later this week? Can I do this? Can I do that?" And that's the beautiful thing. It's so gentle but
Yeah.
effective, and there's no special aftercare.
Ooh, love it. So tell us a little bit more. How does it compare to things like Botox or fillers? They're, competitor alternative options. So how does this compare to that?
Yeah, so I would say it works completely differently, the mechanisms, whereas with Botox, it kind of tries to freeze the muscle and long term can lead to atrophy. With acupuncture, we're actually increasing circulation in the area and increasing the collagen. So, whereas Botox can achieve a certain look really quickly, cosmetic
Mm-hmm.
acupuncture is much more natural. It takes several sessions to usually see like a transformation. I kind of joked with my patients sometimes that 1 or 2 is like a treat, it's like going to get a facial almost.
Uh-huh.
But 4 to 6 is a treatment where you'll see, like we take pictures at the beginning of sessions,
Mm-hmm.
that way you can compare. And
Mm-hmm.
then 10 is a transformation that's lasting. So
Beautiful.
some people will come for a series of 6 to 10 treatments, depending on what sort of transformation they're looking for.
Okay, makes sense. Well, tell us about the laser. You combine traditional techniques with tools. How do they work together? And what does the laser do? What addition does it bring to the table when you're working on someone that the needles alone wouldn't do?
Okay, yes, great question. So as I told you, I've gone on this whole self-care journey.
Mhm.
I always joke, I'm like, oh, it's market research. I got to test all these things for my patients. And so,
Absolutely.
yes, from having such bad acne for, several years, one big thing that I wanted to work on was the scars and the discoloration and hyperpigmentation that I had. But
Mhm.
because I am somebody who's multiracial, I'm African American, Mexican, Swedish, my skin in regular hot lasers that use heat I get very nervous because that can be not so great for my skin and actually cause even more hyperpigmentation.
Uh-huh.
So when I found the Lima laser, I was really excited because it's safe for all skin types and it's a cold
Mm.
laser. It's a
Okay.
low level laser and it works by stimulating the mitochondria, the powerhouse in the cells, to help
Mm-hmm.
repair the cells of your skin, and it helps to reduce inflammation, and it can help with fine lines and wrinkles.
Yes.
So it kind of helps to accelerate the results of the acupuncture because
Mm-hmm.
cosmetic acupuncture already does all of that. But nowadays, since we're living, in 2026, people want those quick results. So if you get
Yes.
Botox or fillers, the results from that will be much faster than results from cosmetic acupuncture. I joke with
Okay.
my patients that we're working on Mother Nature's timeline, not TikTok's,
Yes,
especially
I
with
love that.
acupuncture. And so a lot of my patients actually, I was pleasantly surprised they like that. They don't want to come into work one day and look totally different and have everybody know. They want it to be more subtle, gradual, where people
Gradual.
are saying, "What did you do? Something
Mm-hmm.
looks,
Have you
are
been
you getting
drinking
good
more water?
sleep? Yeah, like what supplements are you taking?" And so it's
Yes.
a little more subtle. But over the course of time, you can really see that transformation.
Beautiful. So what is that realistic timeline? What changes would you see at the 2 week mark versus 2 months, maybe 6 months down the road? What would that look like?
Yeah, so at the 2 week mark, that's kind of when people start getting those comments from people close to them, like, "Oh, you've really been glowing lately," or, "Are you doing something like a different skincare routine or something like that?" And then at the 2 month mark, that's when you can start to see that transformation. So if somebody's working on like creases around the lips or kind of the
Mm-hmm.
forehead creases or wanting to work on a scar recovery. Sometimes people have scars on their face, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. That's when they'll start to see a big change with whatever their
Mm,
main concern is. And then at the 6 month mark, that's where it kind of depends on what path the patient wants to take. So some people will do a series of like 6 to 10 treatments back to back every week. And then
mm-hmm.
from there, they may come in every 4 to 6 weeks just for maintenance, or some
Okay.
people will do a series of 10 treatments once a year. Then they just come in once a year.
Beautiful. I was going to ask what the maintenance schedule or routine looks like, and so you started to go there. So it's kind of a individual decision and based off of what they're working on then.
Exactly. Yeah. And so with
Okay.
some people, they will kind of notice on their own, like if they want to come in every 6 weeks for
Mhm.
kind of like maintenance or a little longer. Some people push it. Some people like to come every like 4 to 6 weeks just because it's relaxing and we do work on
Yeah.
the whole body still. So even though it's
Okay.
cosmetic acupuncture, they're still getting the benefits of stress relief, better sleep, a regulated nervous system.
Mm,
And so even if they don't necessarily feel like they need to come in for the cosmetic
hmm.
concerns, they'll still just come in because it's relaxing and they really like
Yes.
it. And then other people may like try to push it to like 8 weeks or maybe a little longer, but they'll notice, oh, I'm starting to see these creases are looking deeper again. So I'm going to come in every 6 weeks instead.
Yes. Ooh, love it. Is there anybody that this is maybe not the right treatment for? Is there anyone that you would say, oh, I should steer clear of this?
So for pregnant patients, I don't recommend cosmetic acupuncture just from
Okay.
a Chinese medicine point of view.
Mhm.
We'll be bringing a lot of energy upwards and up towards the face. And we want a lot of that energy to be down in what we call the lower jiao and down towards the abdomen and sending all of those resources to the growing baby. And we don't
Mhm.
want to be sending mixed signals to the body of trying to make a major transformation in the face when you've got other
Uh-huh.
more important things going on.
Perfect. Thank you for that. All right, so let's talk about a few of the additional specialties you focus on because your work goes beyond the face. You also work with other areas of the body. You've talked about, we're one whole person, right? So there's that. But you mentioned scar recovery. So talk to us a little bit more about how acupuncture supports scar healing and what types of scars that it responds best to.
Yes. So I did mention sometimes people have scars on their face. That's something that we work on with cosmetic acupuncture. And then C-section scars can be a big one. So
Oh,
many
okay.
people have been in different accidents just from being a child, whether
Yes.
this, that, running around,
Yeah.
sports.
The rock in the knee from the, bike you're riding and you go flying across. Yep.
Yeah, those kinds
Uh,
of things. Sometimes car accidents, surgeries is a big one. So many people have surgeries these days. And
mhm.
so from the standpoint of Chinese medicine, we're trying to clear any blockages in the channels that can create an imbalance or disrupt the good flow of circulation and energy. And so by doing scar recovery, it can actually end up healing a lot of other related concerns that people have
Mhm.
sometimes, especially sometimes with digestion with really big C-section scars in the lower abdomen, and that can cause some pain. And then even sometimes around the joints, people have
Mhm.
issues with scars there. And so by putting the acupuncture needles around the scar and then on different points along those same meridians where the scar is mainly affecting,
Mhm.
people get really great results and are really
Mm.
sometimes amazed at how effective it can be.
Ooh, awesome. All right, let's
Yeah.
talk about fertility. What role does acupuncture play here? And is it usually paired with something like IVF, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it is really common to be paired with IVF, but
Okay.
also some patients will come in who aren't doing IVF and they want help with fertility. A
Okay.
lot of times, what is really helpful is when women come in ahead of time to help regulate their menses. And
Mm-hmm.
so, acupuncture before actually becoming pregnant, at least a few months before, is ideal. And so
Okay.
sometimes people don't realize and they're kind of excited, like, oh, my periods are awful. I get bad
Yeah.
cramps and back pain and headaches. But when I'm pregnant, I won't have a period. So I won't have to deal with that. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's much better to come in ahead of time and to help regulate that period and make sure your symptoms are more well managed
Okay.
before trying to conceive. And that can help to make
Mhm.
that first trimester go much smoother.
I love it. Yeah, because it's all about the preparation piece, right? We want to make
Mhm.
sure the soil is good.
Right. And
Yes.
trimester zero was something that's been trending lately that I am happy to hear people are really starting to think ahead and set themselves up for success.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's a lot of conversation, or at least traditionally haven't seen it in the space where it's the prepping for getting
Hmm.
pregnant, right? It's just kind of like people go through life and it's like, oh, pregnant, okay, or oh, let's try to get pregnant. And it isn't until there's a challenge or an issue where all of a sudden it becomes this huge undertaking of, oh my gosh, what do we need to do? And people then typically will start delving into this area. So I'm glad to see that that's becoming a thing now too, because it's as much for women as men. We need to be positioning and taking care of our wellness and our bodies with the thought in mind that if we plan on procreating, we want to be the healthiest version of ourselves so that we can bring or have the highest likelihood of bringing that healthy human into the world too.
Right.
So,
And to have as
yeah.
smooth of an experience as possible. Morning sickness is a
Yes.
huge thing that people will come in with when they are pregnant. And so, even beforehand, helping women who are struggling with what we call rebellious stomach chi, where you've got that upward energy, frequently belching, acid reflux, if you have some
Yeah.
nausea, things like that, it's good to really try and regulate that before pregnancy.
Oof. I missed that boat. That would have been beautiful. I was the I was the one where I was like, didn't they say morning sickness was just supposed to be one trimester? And I remember I was on medication the entire time for my son, and it
Mhm.
was rough. And I mean, they were putting me on medications they used for cancer treatment patients because I'm like, I am just everything is coming up. What is happening? Second one was equally as awful. And then the third one, it was like, okay, I can navigate this. But oh my gosh, yeah, what that would have
Mhm.
been a blessing to have tried acupuncture back then. That would have been great. Oh,
Yeah.
all right, let's talk about migraines. So, how can you support individuals who experience migraines, the spectrum of migraines, the ones where you are laying on your bed in the dark for days, the ones where you're losing vision? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So honestly, migraines is something I never initially thought I would specialize in, but I've just attracted a lot of patients to my practice who struggle with migraines. And like you said, they come in so many varieties where some have aura, some don't, some are extremely sensitive to light, some aren't, sometimes even smells and nausea and vertigo. And like you said, feeling just really down for the count. And then
Mhm.
afterwards, feeling almost like you're hung over for days. And so I really sympathize with my migraine patients because it can affect them in so many ways. And
Mhm.
so, because acupuncture treats the individual in the way that they're presenting in front of you and what their different patterns are, everybody gets a unique treatment, which is why I think acupuncture is so effective at treating migraines because
Mm.
sometimes people will be given the same medication, but their migraines aren't presenting the same way, or maybe their medication worked for a little while, but then they've grown a tolerance to it and now it doesn't help at all. And a lot of times that's when people find me. Phil jokes, Dr. Phil
Yes.
George, that I'm like a resort doctor. I'm the last resort. People come to me after they've tried everything else and it's not working.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
And so
gosh.
it's really satisfying to help to feel
Yeah.
better. And it looks different for everybody. Sometimes, depending on where people are at, they'll get great results after just a few treatments, or at least their migraines will start to be less and less the duration, or the
Okay.
symptoms will be less extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But then most migraine patients like to come in once they figure out, like some people, it's related to their menstrual cycle. And so they'll come in strategically, like the week before and the week
Yes.
of, or some people will know when it's like a lot of lights and smells and different things like that. And so if they're
Mm-hmm.
maybe traveling or have like a big work conference or things like that, they'll come in before and after to try and help regulate.
Mm, nice. All right, talk to us about stress and nervous system regulation. I mean, stress, nervous system, it's like the buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's nervous system is just regulated, right? So, how can you support people with their nervous system?
Yes, so acupuncture is fabulous at supporting people to regulate their nervous system. And so the thing is, everybody's a little bit different. Most people are a little bit stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze. And
Mm-hmm.
then the thing isn't that people can't get to the rest, digest, reproduce. Is that that switching piece is really hard for people. And so that's
Okay.
what I found out back in 2020 to 2023. I actually taught yoga and was a mindfulness coach
Huh?
specifically for what I called my heroes, healers, and overachievers, because I really have a
Oh,
soft spot for them.
I love
And
it.
that group of people in particular, they're used to being like overachievers and high functioning and responding to emergency scenarios. So those are the kind of people you want to switch on and get things done when
Yes.
it needs to get done. But then those same
Yes.
people, when they're off their shift, we're still kind of in that mode and not
Mm-hmm.
in the relaxed mode. So helping people to be able to fluidly go back and forth
Okay.
between the states of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system is where I
Mm-hmm.
really like to help people to improve that, because it's almost like they're getting stuck and can't make
Yeah.
it to that other state.
Uh-huh. Totally understand that. People would always joke with me and say, "You're 0 or 100." I'm like, "Yeah, in the middle? Like, what's happening in the middle, right? You're either on or off. It's I'm flat on my, like down for days, or I'm running a million miles an hour." Because exactly like you said, you get into those modes and it becomes your battle rhythm. And then when you're like, "Wait, there's a middle space. Like, you don't have to go at 100 miles an hour. You can go at 50." Feels weird. It feels almost counterintuitive to what your body's been conditioned to do. So I love that you're able to help individuals kind of transition out of that mindset and allow that nervous system to work more fluidly. Such a beautiful
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
and because some people it is like the meditation can be really hard for some people, like just sitting still and meditating. And so sometimes I tell people going for a nice mindful walk or doing like some tapping or qigong or tai chi. But sometimes it's easier said than done when you're in that sort of state. So having somebody provide that physical stimuli for you of the acupuncture needles and
mhm.
resting and the calm music and the relaxing space, it just kind of really helps your nervous system to kind of exhale and realize, okay,
Yes.
this is what we're doing now. We're relaxing now.
Absolutely. Yes, I love it. I love it. All right, so let's talk about some practical takeaways as we come into the tail end of our conversation today. I just want to give some practical takeaways for listeners. So, who's the ideal candidate for acupuncture and who should check with their doctor first? Is there any recommendation you can share in that space?
Yeah, so I would say honestly, anybody who's really struggling with any sort of health concern, or even on the other end of the spectrum, somebody who just knows they don't feel like the healthiest version of themselves and they feel like they're not reaching their full potential,
Mhm.
whatever that may be, whether it's emotionally, physically, if they're just kind of like something's not right. I don't know exactly what. Usually, if you
Mm-hmm.
go and see an acupuncturist, go through the full health history, they'll figure out where you could use some help. And then, in terms of asking your doctor, maybe if you're going through any sort of extreme treatments like cancer treatments, that would be a good time to ask your doctor if it's appropriate, when it's appropriate. But yeah, I've treated patients after their cancer treatments and helping with unwanted symptoms like numbness and tingling, loss of taste, dry mouth, things like that.
Beautiful. Any risks or side effects people should know about?
Honestly, the biggest risk I would say, if you are taking blood thinning medications, you might
Mhm.
end up with little bruises here or there. Other
Okay.
than that, acupuncture is extremely low risk.
Awesome. All right. And you talk about wealth, time, social, mental, physical, all of the things, and you frame treatment as a vitality investment. So, what does that mean in your practice and for how you approach your patient care?
Yes. So I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. I love measuring success based on what my patients are doing in their day-to-day life. So yes, I use the scale, like, okay, where are you at on a scale of 0 to 10 with this
Hmm.
pain, that sort of thing. But what I care about more is when it's like a parent who's like, oh, I can't give my kid piggyback rides. Like my back is killing me and that's all they want. Or
Hmm.
somebody who's about to retire and they've been planning this big lifelong like European vacation, but
Yeah.
their knee or hip is just killing them and they don't think they're going to be able to walk or even sit on a
Mm-hmm.
long flight, things like that. It's where, to me, I love the idea of memory dividends, where
Mm-hmm.
memories just get more and more valuable with time. And so I don't want people to be missing out on making those memories that they want to really make.
Oh, I love that. Memory dividends. That's a
Mhm.
beautiful saying. I love that. Ooh, I could see you writing a book on that one. That is awesome. I love it. All right. So, what should someone look for when they're choosing a qualified practitioner? Are there any credentials or red flags they should be aware of as they're doing their research? Because, of course, we want everybody to contact you. So, we will share your information at the end. But if they're not local to you, how can they really start their search and what are your recommendations?
Yeah, so I would recommend always making sure the practitioner's licensed. That's a huge one. And each state is different what the requirements are. Most acupuncturists have to take state and national boards. So in Massachusetts, the Board of Registration in Medicine is actually the same board that licenses physicians in the state of Massachusetts. So Massachusetts is very strict. All acupuncturists go
Yeah.
through rigorous schooling and testing. In most states, it's very similar. And even if you do find an acupuncturist, sometimes you can reach out to them. Like from being in the military, I have friends all over the country, even like
Yeah.
Alaska, Guam, wherever. And
I
they'll
love
they'll
it.
send me a message, a DM, and ask, "Oh, do you know anybody in this state or
Okay.
someone around here?" And sometimes they'll even just send me a couple websites and ask, "Okay, which one would you go to and why?" And I
Uh-huh.
love helping people out because it's a beautiful thing to help connect people to
Yes.
the right practitioner.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. And what would you say to someone who's listening? They're curious, but they're still on the fence. What's your message?
Yeah, honestly, like we just said, it's so low risk that it's worth giving it a try. I think kind of the worst thing, sometimes my patients will ask me all the things that are out there. There's so many different healing modalities, there's all these new wearables, this, that. And I'll just ask them, well, what's the risk? What's the risk if you try it? And then
Mhm.
they come to the conclusion it's low risk. They're like, okay, you're right. I should give it a try, see if it works. If it
Mhm.
doesn't, now I know I tried it.
Oof, I love that. Absolutely, because there's so many individuals who are afraid to try something because they're just like, oh my gosh, I've tried it all. Is this going to be another wasted hour or hour and a half, money, time, all the things? And you never know until you try. And if you're
Yeah.
still seeking, that could be the one thing that just kind of changes, just brings it up a notch and improves your overall health and wellness. So, like you said, what's the risk? It's very minute
Yeah.
oftentimes. Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Especially if you can set your future self up for success. That's like my litmus test. Is my future self going to thank me for doing this?
Yes. Ooh, love that. Ooh, the wisdom. You are dropping all of the wisdom today. Absolutely gorgeous. Love it. All right. So we're coming to a close. So where can people find you and Chi Society? Give us the contact info. Tell us how they can reach out, all of the things.
Yeah, so my website is chisociety.com. On
Okay.
Instagram, I'm at Dr. Alexia Lindell.
Okay.
And then my phone number is 508-556-2828. We try to respond pretty quickly, me and my team, whether it's a phone call or a text. And my email is care, CARE, at chisociety.com.
Awesome. Wonderful. Any last piece of advice or any words of wisdom you want to give before we depart?
Oh, honestly, I feel like we've shared so much. I don't know
We
what else
did.
to say.
We did. You really did. You covered so much. I mean, I was taking away the memory dividends. I was taking away the litmus test. Is it going to improve your future self? I mean, you gave me some things to think about. So I appreciate all that you shared today. And for our listeners, if you haven't tried acupuncture, if you're in the New England area, definitely pick up the phone. I'll put the information for Chi Society in the episode notes so that you're able to reach out if you didn't get a chance to write them down. Reach out to Dr. Alexia. She's here for it. And if she doesn't know, if you're not there, she knows somebody somewhere that could help you. So absolutely make that connection. So thank you again, Dr. Alexia. We appreciate you coming on. And for our listeners, until next time, be well and stay blessed.